Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to talk to you guys a bit about Shadowlands, how the first, I guess, 5 or so days have gone for me, what my character looks like gearing wise, but then really get into some hard-hitting questions. Over the course of the past 4 days, we've streamed like 60 or so hours, and we've gotten the same 7 or 8 questions over and over and over, which is totally fine because people normally aren't there when those questions were answered, or they might not have been. But I figured the best idea, or the best way to convey these answers just in a broader spectrum, would be to make a video on it. So we're going to be talking about Covenant, Sanctum, upgrades, mission tables, Darkmoon decks, trinkets, gearing, buying BOEs, what spec I'm playing Mythic Plus, why I'm playing X spec and not the other spec, what it means, why the class sucks, why it doesn't suck, why you might think it sucks, why it really doesn't suck, and everything few and far between. Any weak auras, profiles, or add-ons you see here, you can get off my Twitch for free. If you want to swing by, hang out, ask any questions, feel free to do so. So let's get into the video. Okay, so starting things off with a bang, what covenant have I chosen? Well, I chose Night Fae, which is what I said in the video I released about 2 days before launch. Now, I want to talk a bit about this. So the guides that I released, looking at Destruction and looking at Demonology and Affliction, those guides are based around those specs. So when they recommend, Kyrian or Necrolord at the same time for Destruction, that is based around that spec. The reason that I chose Night Fae, though, oh, by the way, the dinosaur mount is from the other side, the dungeon, the final boss. I'm sure I'm going to get questions about that as well. It's a pretty sick mount, to be fair, or I guess skin, to be fair. The reason I chose Night Fae is that it does competitive single target damage, similar to what Kyrian will do for Affliction or Necrolord for Destro, whatever, what have you. But it also has an AoE component in Soul Rot. Soul Rot deals twice the damage to your main target, and then, half that damage, but still a decent bit to your other targets. The dot is indeed extended by Dark Lair. It affects Rapture, and even outside of Affliction, it's just solid AoE damage for Destro, good AoE damage for Demo. And the cool thing about that is that Nia has an ability called Grove Invigoration, which gives you a mastery increase of 200 for 30 seconds. And it can get more stacks than that. You can get 8 stacks, 9 stacks, depending on if it's procs. It's a very strong effect. Outside of Soul Rot, the other soul binds are good. You have this, like I said. You have Dreamweaver, which has her second potency conduit, unlocking for Renown 13, I believe. And even Corian has some pretty solid effects here and there. So when it comes to overall Covenant utility, that is the reason that I chose Night Fae. It might not necessarily be the best for single target Affliction or single target Destruction or single target Demonology, but when it comes to single target damage, it's good, and it brings an AoE component to it as well. Looking over the fights in Castle Nathria, for example, which is going to be the first raid tier, there are a handful of fights. Looking at Lady Enerva Darkvein, add spawn basically every minute. Stone Legion Generals, add spawn basically every minute. First phase is Sire to Nathrius, big add burn DPS check in a sense, and second phase there can be a decent bit of cleave too. Huge cleave on Sun King Salvation, Huntsman Altimore, multi-target. There's a utility when it comes to an ability like Soul Rot in the raid as well. Oh, and also once again, Soul Shape is an incredible ability. I have to say I did not play with Night Fae very often on beta. Soul Shape is incredible. This ability has saved me so many times. I'm not even totally used to using it yet, but this ability has saved me so many times from mechanics coming at me. It's a speed boost in the maw, even though it lasts only 12 seconds. It's still really solid. So once again, the guides are not inaccurate. They're just talking about that spec as a whole. That's the reason I put out the Night Fae video afterwards, encompassing or encapsulating all of those into one and giving you the best, in my opinion, overall Covenant. I will say, if you're not trying to push high-end progression like World First rating or Hall of Fame rating or high-end keys, whatever, play the Covenant that you want. If your guild or your group or whatever doesn't care what Covenant you play and you don't care about min-maxing your damage either, play what you want, have fun with it, and just go from there. Number 2, Sanctum Upgrades. So I've gotten a lot of questions about what have you upgraded first, second, what is your plan? I am Night Fae once again. I had to upgrade the command table for my Covenant quest line. So this is our first 1,000 anima that we spent and a few of our souls. I upgraded the actual anima conductor second. Now the reason I upgraded this was because early on, the Renown 3 quest line for Night Fae was bugged. This guy right here, Cecily, whatever this thing is, would not spawn until you upgraded the anima conductor, which is this thing right here. Once you built it, he spawned and gave you the Renown 3 quest line. However, even without that being the case, I probably would have upgraded the second regardless because of what it does. it allows you to channel anima to certain parts of the zone, opening up other events. So you can open up, it basically right here, it gives you a chest of sorts you can loot every day, which you can have conduits, reagents, gold, many things in it, gear. This part of the zone has you kill a rare, and at certain points in the day you can channel to both of them, actually killing the rare and going over here. So this is like, I think for early on character progression, probably your best bet once you have the command table open. Now I have also made the transport network. This is essentially, I can go up here, a group of mushrooms that you make after you make it. It's a small quest line. It allows transport around the zone. On top of that, it also gives you a bit of like a daily quest you can do that gives you more rep with this central mushroom looking thing that I believe you can buy like pets and things with at a certain point. It's convenient because it's not, first of all, we don't have a flight master's whistle, and second of all, even though it only corresponds to this zone, navigating Ardenweald is a bit of a headache. Here's the actual mushroom thing that gives the daily quest. I've already done it today. You can see a rep bar here, very similar to Binari, and these mushrooms here, 1 2 3, standing next to them gives you an option to teleport to forest edge. Bam, there I am. Go back in here, run over here this time. Where are we gonna go? I have no idea because I don't use them very often. We're going to Stillglade. There I am. And the other one is over here somewhere, I believe. So while I don't think this is like as useful for character progression and things, it's still there. It only costs 1,000 anima, which is easy to get, and if you like it, go for it. But as far as I'm concerned, I think personally the anima conductor should probably end up being upgraded second. I have not looked at the garden event yet. That's gonna be next week. Legendaries. So I've gotten a lot of questions about legendaries over the past 5 days. What legendary are you going to craft first? I have no idea. There are some that are front runners for each spec, Demonology, Destro, AF, and there are some front runners that are good just across every spec. The thing is, this is important, I want to drive this point home. There is always heroic weak class tuning. On top of that, there could be covenant tuning and legendary tuning. So you can make a legendary next week when you get enough soul ash. But the thing is, if they nerf that legendary, which they shouldn't do, but if they do, well, you know, you're sort of out of luck. Even if they don't nerf legendaries, they could buff a spec that makes it a lot better on certain fights, which might mean you want a different legendary on that fight. So I am waiting until Mythic Week, until Castle Nathria opens on Mythic and my guild steps in for the first time to craft legendaries. Now, most likely, my plan is going to be crafting a couple of them, a couple of rank 1s, maybe a rank 1 or rank 2, depending on Soul Ash. I don't even know the exact number at this point for week 4. It's a mystery. I know it's out there somewhere, but yeah. As far as they all go, every single legendary for Demonology, Dreadcalling, Implosive, Bale Spiders, Horn Nightmare, Wilfrid's, and Synergy are all good in different spots. This is more AoE based. This is your pure single target one, or one of them. This is good all around, good single target, good AoE. You're always casting Hand of Gul'dan. This is fine with the Dreadstalker's build, although it's probably one of the worst ones because you're probably playing different legendaries in that build. Anyways, Wilfrid's is good. Shorter Tyrants works very well with the From the Shadows Dreadlash build, and Relic of Demonic Synergy. This is your best universal legendary for a Warlock. It is good for Destro, good for Demo, and good for AF. If you're looking at making one universal one, you would probably most likely end up making Relic of Demonic Synergy as of November 28th at 6 in the morning. For Affliction, I am eyeing Perpetual Agony of Azakir, extra shard generation, extra everything else. It's just solid. Makes the spec feel better, all of that. Sacrolash, Wrath, situational. Okay, not the best, not the worst. They're not really very high on my list. Wilfrid's is bad for Affliction. Once again, Synergy is good. Very well might end up being the one that I target for Affliction in the raid on a handful of fights due to mechanics. Malefic Wrath can be good, pure single target. The issue with Malefic Wrath is that it is hard to maintain the stacks and get full drain value on fights like Dance Boss or Stone Legion Generals. Fights where you have to move a lot and can't just rapture over and over and over and maintain the buff. So keep that in mind. Looking at Destruction, you have Cinders of Azakir. This is your single target legendary or 2 target for Destro. You have Wilfrid's, which is your big Reign of Chaos legendary for Destro and Mythic Plus, Sun King Salvation, large, heavy AoE fights. Once again, Demonic Synergy, good for Destro. Don't bother with the rest. None of them are very good. When people ask about Affliction with Phantom Singularity and Soul Rot and holding your Soul Rot for all that kind of stuff. So the answer for this, I don't know. Sims haven't really been done yet. They are sort of done, but aren't totally sort of done. I personally feel that it's probably going to be worth holding your Singularity for your Soul Rock, because Soul Rock gives you a mastery buff that lasts 30 seconds, which means that mastery buff, Mastery affects rapture damage, more dots. Soul Rot with Singularity, more rapture damage, even more rapture damage, more mastery for more dot damage in general. But in the end, it's going to come down to sims. What I'm really curious about, and Shelley pointed this out earlier on stream today, I was curious about potentially a single target build playing Vile Taint, because Vile Taint is a 20-second cooldown, which lines up very well every minute with Soul Rot. Technically, you'll get Soul Rot coverage on your first Vile Taint in your Rapture window and your second one, because it lasts half a minute versus a 20-second CD. The fact that you're holding, or the fact that you're rapturing every minute or so, also means that you're probably going to have an extra shard or two that you need to just rapture away. But you can put those in the Vile Taints instead, also giving you a better timing window with, once again, VT, Soul Rot, extensions, all of that. Shelley pointed out that the Agony Legendary could be even better with this build because it ensures more, more raptures with Vile Taints. It could be very strong. No sims, from what I'm aware, have been run for this. I don't know. I will update you guys when I know. At this point, I feel you're probably holding. I could be wrong, but I'm also very curious about the Vile Taint build. When I know more, I will definitely update you guys. So we have about a week and a half to really figure it out. So, BIS list and stat priorities. I've gotten a lot of questions asking about what stats are best for each spec, what should I be itemizing, looking at, all that, this and that. My answer is that you should run your own sims. Not in a sarcastic way, not at all. The thing is, your stat weights and your sims will vary from mine because I have different gear than you, and secondary stats are relatively close. I will say right now, we'll run a stat weight sim. This is raidbots.com. This is a very, very great website. If you don't know this, you should go to it and explore completely. This will give you the best build DPS wise for your character for any spec. Well, Demonology is not done right now, but AF and Destro. So running a stat weight sim here. The answer that I have been giving is not non-sarcastically, even though it sounds sarcastic, and people ask what is the best stat weights, I say item level. And that is because intellect is worth so much more value than it has been worth for a very long time right now. I will show you my own stat weight sim here. Intellect is worth 2.47 per point of intellect compared to 1 point of haste. It is worth so much right now. So item level typically reigns supreme. Now, you can see haste and mastery are a bit more valuable here than crit and verse. However, at this point in the game, people don't really have multiple chests at 183 item level that have haste and mastery on them, and a different one having verse and crit on them. I actually do. So I get it, people do technically, but it's not very common. So what typically I say is item level reigns supreme. Unless you have like something that's very, very close eye level wise and completely different stats, play the highest item level. However, if you really want to come on to Raidbots and find like your best top performing gear set with gems and enchants, all that, you go to a top gear sim. You copy your information from in-game, put it in there. This is using the SimCraft add-on. In-game, all you do is go /simc, enter once you have the add-on, copy, you bring it over here, you paste it in. This gives you all the gear options that you have: helm, shoulders, chest, whatever you want, there you go. I'm playing Darkmoon deck, which we'll get to in a minute here. Misfiring Centurion controller. You go down, I'm playing Celestial Guidance on my weapon. I have Mastery Enchants on my rings. If you want to sim different ring enchants, check this box here. Replace existing gems and enchants. You can choose different weapons. You can choose Sinful Rev versus Celestial Guidance. You can choose Haste, Crit, Mastery, Verse on your rings. And you can choose whatever you want, different conduits. You go down and you run the sim. This will sim every single iteration of different combinations of gear possible. It'll sim, for example, on your rings, it'll sim haste on one ring, haste on the other, then haste verse, then haste mastery, then haste crit, then mastery haste, then mastery crit, then mastery verse. It'll sim every single combination possible in the world and give you the highest DPS output that you have. But DPS is higher than this, by the way. This is not the right build. LOL. But yeah, you can see, for example, I will gain 7 DPS if I swap my ring enchants to haste, and if I place Sinful Revelation on my weapon. So this is, in the end, what you want to do if you really truly want to min-max your DPS. But you can see there are a million different combinations here, which is why I cannot tell you, no, not one person in the world can tell you what stats you want to play for each spec. I can tell you generally that, Afri wants haste and mastery. Destruction's pretty close in the end, and Demo probably favors haste, but I can't tell you if you're playing a lot more haste than me, for example. So this is, in the end, going to be the best route for you to go to figure out your own character. It only takes 3 minutes. It's pretty fast and super effective. When it comes to BIS list, I mentioned it in the last segment of the video and sort of forgot to talk about it. There is no BIS list out there from what I've seen. I plan to update the Warlock Nathria spreadsheet. I'm going to try and do it on Sunday. putting in a BIS list of sorts for each spec. I'm not sure how it's going to be implemented completely. I also plan on putting out a video on Sunday talking about the BIS list. But the thing with BIS list right now is I would not be too concerned with it, because once again, item level reigns supreme, and we might have, normal Heroic Mythic dungeons right now, and that's it. But in a week or week and a half, we're going to have Mythic Plus. It's capped at, I believe, 197 item level the week of Heroic Nathria, and then it's 205 or something the week Mythic opens. So once again, a certain piece might look really good, but it's going to be a lower eye level potentially compared to what you have, which might make it a bit worse. And that's not even factoring in the higher item level on the weekly cache. So as far as like week 1, week 2 go, I will probably have that list out on Sunday. Look for the video, look for the spreadsheet, all of that. But keep in mind, a 200 eye level chest with haste and mastery is probably going to be worse than a 220 with crit and verse. Just keep that in mind. So I've been getting a lot of questions about why am I saving conduits in my bags. Now I actually don't have any conduits in my bags at this point, but I did. The reason I am saving them is if you put a new conduit in your actual table here, for example, I'm missing 1 Destro, 1 Demo, and 1 AF conduit. I am missing Ashen Remains, I am missing Born of Blood, and I am missing Rolling Agony. If I put one of those new conduits in this table, it would fill in this slot and give me another conduit energy, another swap for the week or so. Now, I don't think this will last until the raid opens. If it does, it's probably an oversight by Blizzard because they want to limit the amount of conduits you can swap. But regardless, the reason to save conduits right now, if you have not put them on your table and they're not good. If they're good, put them on and run them. If they're not good, like a bad finesse conduit or a bad endurance conduit, save them. Because if, let's say you burn through all your conduit charges in Castle Nathria or whatever you're doing, you can then, for example, if I had the last AF one here being Rolling Agony, I could learn it and it would give me another charge of conduit energy back, being allowing me to swap a conduit in again. So that is the reason why I think it's important to save conduits. Now, if I had, for example, let's say a 184 Fel Commando conduit, and I already have like this one in place here, upgrading your conduit does not give you a refund, but adding a whole new conduit does. So it's probably going to be more of a thing for holding endurance and finesse conduits, depending on your potency ones, but just keep that in mind. If you don't need to put them in now, don't do it, because it could help you out long term. I don't think it'll last personally. It seems sort of like an oversight on Blizzard's end, or just some kind of thing they didn't really think about, but keep it in mind. Just don't burn them. Don't learn them if you don't have to. If they're garbage like this, don't learn them. So I've also been getting an insane amount of questions about why am I playing Destruction early on compared to Affliction or Demo that we played on Alpha and Beta and things like that. This is a Destro build that I've been playing. I had no idea what build TSG was playing. We did a dungeon yesterday on stream together, and he was playing the exact same build. The reason that I personally am playing this build is that this version of Destro has a lot more front-loaded damage comparatively to like AF and Keys. Especially when you have like marksman hunters or classes around that can burst through an insane amount of damage pretty quickly. You can run into a pack really quickly, just drop your Cataclysm, drop your Infernal, Cata, Rain of Fire, Soul Rot, Channel Demon Fire, and your damage is flowing. Affliction, for example, has to go cast a Seed of Corruption, roll your Unstable Affliction, roll your Agonies, and the pack is dead. So we're not really playing it because it's OP. There's no build that people were tanking on or trying to hide. It's just the build deals more upfront damage. And, when you're playing just normal dungeons or heroics or mythic zeros, having that upfront damage profile, it's just going to be better, getting through the dungeon faster, and it's going to give you more damage output as a whole. Now, I've played Demonology as well. The Demonology build that we have played is more the FTS Dreadlash build. I like this build more for Mythic Plus. I think it's a lot better on Trash. You're still playing Decon for bosses and priority mobs. This build is also solid when it comes to Plus. You can chain large implosions from one pack to the next and giving you a lot of upfront burst damage. When it comes to Affliction, well, you're having to cast your Seed, put your UA on your target, get your Agonies rolling, cast your Soul Rock, cast your Vile Tank, cast your Dark Lair, and then start rapturing. At that point, dude, it's already the next day. Like, the group's 4 packs ahead. Like, it's just in Mythic Zeros and Heroics, the Trash doesn't live that long. So Affliction is not bad. It's the same as it was at the end of Alpha, same as the end of Beta. It's just things are dying a lot faster. We talked about it over all of Beta. Things are dying so fast in lower keys. It's similar here with lower gear. It's just that, things are dying even faster than before. It's not fortified. It's not a key. It's just baseline Mythic Zero mob. So don't worry. After still fine. After still fine and plus, all 3 specs are relatively close to each other in Mythic Plus. I think Demo is a low sleeper because of the undocumented imp lifespan duration increase outside of combat. but all three are still fine in Mythic Plus. The only reason I'm playing Destro for this in World Quest is more upfront damage, the Infernal, Immolation Aura, all of that. When it comes to Torghast, I greatly prefer Destruction or Demonology. I would not, personally, I would not recommend playing Affliction and Torghast. Destruction and Demonology make much better use of the actual anima traits in there, or whatever they're called. There's 18 different systems in this expansion. The ones that give you more effects. Having like an extra Tyrant, for example, or an extra Infernal is so much more impactful than having an extra Dark Lair. Dark Lair, it doesn't do anything. It does a little bit of eye beam damage. It doesn't do much. Having 2 Infernals, double Immolation Aura, more Shard Gen, more Reign of Chaos, everything else. Double Tyrants, Baleful Invocation affects that. Insane single target damage. Affliction, extra eye beam damage. Nobody cares. It doesn't hit hard at all. Plus, Affliction is much slower, like I said, in dealing damage. And when you have like these hard-hitting mobs and Torghast are frequently moving a bit, having mechanics to move a lot, and just a lot of small mobs in Torghast, I don't want to keep going Seed of Corruption, Agony, Vile Taint, and trying to Rapture. I want to drop an Infernal, spam some Rain of Fires, I want to go. I want a Demonic Strength, I want a Bombers, I want to Implode, I want to go. So I highly recommend playing Destro or Demo in Torghast. Can you play Affliction? Yeah, for sure. Is layer 3 tough? It wasn't for me. I'm 177 item level right now, and well, I mean, that's that. It wasn't very tough. We had some decent DPS rates, but it will be a lot harder, the layer 3 boss or level 3, whatever it is, if you're not as geared or don't get good DPS traits. I would recommend Destruction or Demonology in Torghast. So when it comes to buying BOEs in Shadowlands, people are asking, should I buy them? Should I buy the Darkmoon Trinket, which we'll get to a little bit in a minute here? My answer is, it's up to you. So looking at my server is terrible. It is a very small server. We didn't crash on launch, but we have 3 BOEs up total. I'm being excessive, but the prices are incredibly high compared to any semi-decent server anywhere. My server is crazy expensive. But what I'm getting at here, if it's worth it to you, buy it. Would I personally pay 180k for this dagger? No. Now, the actual one thing about this dagger is that this is the only haste mastery one-handed weapon in like, I guess, obtainable at a high eye level in the game right now. There's no haste mastery staff or sword, dagger, anything in Mythic Plus or in Mythic Zeros, any of the dungeons. So that's sort of something to keep in mind, but the prices on BOEs are plummeting. I paid 140k for this belt yesterday, trying to like repost it. I probably could have gotten it on a decent server, but even going to look at the belts now, like they've just dropped so much. This is a good snag yesterday. The belts have dropped so much. Normally they're like at 220, 230k yesterday. They're 150k. They're plummeting. So personally, when it comes to BOEs, like the baseline eye level in Mythic Zero, it's 184. If you really want a 6 eye level upgrade on your belt and your rings and your weapon, go for it. Personally, unless you get it really cheap, I don't think it's worth it. Know that Mythic Plus, when it comes out for Heroic Week, I believe is 197 item level. So chances are decent if you spam Plus before the raid or during Heroic Week, or just go into the raid. You're probably going to get better gear too. If you're going to buy BOEs and prices are dropping, I would look for sockets. Now, once again, sockets, like, you can't get a socket on every single piece of gear in Shadowlands. Only certain pieces can. I think they can have like 6 socket slots total. There is a big ring. This ring, there's one on my server for 500,000 gold. It's way too much. But it's a big crit mastery ring. If you can get a cheap version of this with a hole in it, it's pretty decent. The actual belt, just anything with a socket is okay. But I would not spend a crazy amount of money on this, because keep in mind, once again, you're probably going to be replacing it in Heroic Nathria or Mythic Plus. Socket value is still decent in Shadowlands. On rings, it's more valuable because there's no main stat. What I'm getting at, if it's relevant to you, if it's important to you, pick it up. But I would not spend a crazy amount of gold. If you don't need to buy it this week, if you've already run your zeros and everything, don't waste your gold. Wait till next week, run your zeros again. If you then need it and want to supplement your gear, if you think it's worth it personally, then buy it. But at this point, I don't really think it's worth. So is the Darkmoon deck Putrescence good? I've gotten this question a lot on stream lately too, and my answer is I'm not incredibly excited about it. Looking back earlier in the video when we talked about stat weights and things, this is a 200 item level trinket. It has 61 intellect on it. In the Sims earlier, intellect was incredibly valuable. So one of the big things about this trinket is that the intellect is sort of propping up its value. If you sim this trinket, it sims okay. but there's no 200 other little things in the game right now, barring this trinket. It has int on it as the baseline stat. It's 60k on my server. I bought it for 75k this morning. That's way too much money. I would not spend that personally. Once again, if you don't need it this week and can do zeros, do zeros. Wait for it and see if you really want to buy it. I bought it, tested on stream, and hang out with you guys and see how it all goes. The damage effect on the trinket is not very impressive. It dealt like 1 to 2% of my damage in Mythic Plus. It was not very good. The actual enemies hit are 6 to 13% more likely to be crit by you. That lasts 10 seconds. So destruction can't make great use of that. You can sort of like squeeze in CDFs and rain of fires into that window, but your main damage is your Infernal, which lasts half a minute. So you're not getting that damage amp for your entire Infernal. Demonology, this is damage that you deal. Now, I have not tested it with Demonology pets. I think the chances are extremely high that's only you, like Shadow Bolts and Demon Bolts and things. Because if it's worded like this, it says enemies are more likely to be critically hit by you. You, the Warlock, the player, not your Imps, not your Dreadstalkers, not your Felguard, not your Tyrant. You, your Shadow Bolts and your Demon Bolts, which don't do anything. So that's the case, and I'm pretty sure it is. It's not incredibly impactful for Demonology and Destruction. Affliction, though, you can squeeze in all your Raptures, whether it's single target, AoE, into that 10-second window, especially if you're playing Dark Soul and things. So Affliction gains the most value, I feel, from this trinket, but in the end, I'm not crazy excited about it. It's okay. It's an intellect stick with a decent-ish effect. It's a 1.5-minute cooldown, so technically you can sequence this sort of like how you did Manifesto with AF, depending how you're playing it, but I don't recommend it highly. It's okay. It's mediocre. It's more or less fine. But if you don't have the gold, don't worry about it. So the final topic that I've gotten a lot of questions on is, what spec are you playing for Mythic Plus and what spec are you playing in the raid? Is your main spec Destruction? Is your main spec whatever? My main spec is Warlock. I play all 3 specs, or plan on playing all 3 specs in the raid. I play whatever spec is best on each fight, which gives my guild the best chance of killing the fight as fast as possible. When it comes to Mythic Plus, I think Demonology is sleeper good because of the recent health imp change thing or duration outside of combat. Affliction is still solid. Destro is still solid. Now, in the end, I do think Warlock should probably use a bit of a damage buff. I've been saying this for the past month or so on beta. All 3 specs I do feel are still competitive like among themselves in Mythic Plus. Some have different damage profiles. AF will be the most consistent, like if packs live for a while with this dot once they get ramped up. Demonology has the most consistent AoE early on, later on with Dreadstalker's FTS build. And Destro, I feel, has the highest ceiling if you're playing Reign of Chaos, Reign of Fire, Wilfred, Soul Conduit, Inferno build. When it comes to the raid, I plan on the chance. What it mostly probably looks like is a good bit of Affliction with a little bit of Destro mixed in, and maybe a fight or 2 for Demonology. At this point, I'll go through it. Affliction, you can play Destro if you want. It's pretty much perma 2 target, but it's the second boss. You can AFK and play with your toes and the boss will die. Affliction, big Destro fight. Reign of Chaos, Wilfred, Soul Conduit, Inferno, big AoE fight with some priority damage at times. Affliction, Destro, and Demo all have merit here. The ads spawn, I believe, on a minute timestamp, so you can get good Demonic Strength cleave, good Implosion cleave, you can get good Destro cleave with just Havoc, Cataclysm, all that stuff. You can get good AF cleave every other wave with Dark Soul and Dark Hall if you're playing it. This fight is a bit of a toss-up. I'm leaning a bit more towards probably AF on here, but it could easily be Destro, maybe Demo. This fight is a sleeper single target fight. It is a council fight, but single target fight in disguise. Affliction. This fight, Sludgefish could be Demonology. Sludgefish charges a pillar basically every minute or so. Now, playing Wilfred's does get you about a minute Tyrant, but with the timings being that tight, one minor mistake will mess you up to the point where you can't Tyrant at the right time, and it will throw off your cooldowns for the rest of the fight. Regardless, though, Demonology probably has the best cooldown profile for this fight, being Tyrant, potentially on pole, second. Well, it depends. You can Tyrant maybe on pole and then get like Tyrant for second pillar, fourth pillar. What you probably do is you Tyrant first pillar, third pillar, and then fifth being charged into the wall. You could Tyrant on pole, but you want to Tyrant the actual damage amps. And when he hits the pillar, he takes increased damage for 12 seconds, which is, for the most part, the entire duration of your Tyrant. You have about, I guess, 3-ish seconds of wiggle room. But having that strong damage every, 12 seconds is going to be big. Yes, Destro and AF, maybe they're tuned better single target, but it's not about that. The mechanics of the fight call for a big burst window every, minute and a half or so, depending on what you have. And Demonology could be good here. Outside of that, could also just be a regular AF fight playing single target build. Stone Legion Generals, this I tested both AF and as Destro. I think it's probably going to end up being an AF, probably a Destro fight, but it could be AF too. Reign of Chaos, Wilfred's, Soul Conduit, all that is very good here. Your Infernal, you have basically for every other wave of ads that come in, with Wilfred's being as insane as it is cooldown reduction wise. AF's not bad here. A lot of ads dying frequently, a lot of shards to snipe, decent rapture windows, and good cleave on the ads in phase 2. The final phase is 2 target cleave as well. So Destro's good there, AF's good there. You could make a bit of a case for Demonology here because of cleave and stack and that kind of stuff, but it just seems like more of a headache than it's worth. Sire Denathrius is probably going to be Affliction unless something weird happens. Execute phase, single target, add burst with rapture windows. You're just good to go. So I don't have like one main spec. I plan on playing mostly AF in the raid with a mix of Destro, maybe a little bit of Demo. That'd be cool. I wouldn't mind that, but nothing's changed. I want to drive home the point that nothing's changed from beta testing. What you're seeing right now with people playing Destro is just more front-loaded damage. Infernal, Destro is being better for questing, the Infernal Stun, Immolation Aura, it just deals damage faster in a better way for what content we're in. But when the raid comes out and Plus opens up, you'll start seeing more Destro or more Demo, more AF, all of that, and going from there. So TLDR, don't worry about what's going on right now. Nothing's bad. I mean, we could use a damage buff. Some classes are better than us. Hunters, Boomkins, Mages, every other Shadow Priest, but heroic tuning is a thing. I don't want you guys to worry. I mean, I've been through a lot of releases. A lot of classes have been overtuned, undertuned. For the most part, Blizzard can get it relatively right when it comes to tuning at this point. So do I expect buffs? Probably. Do I know we're getting buffs? No. But the good thing with Warlock's damage and toolkit right now is that the Warlock toolkit, looking at how Affliction, Destro, and Demo function in Mythic Plus and in rating, they function very well. It's just that the damage isn't necessarily there in certain settings, especially compared to other classes. But that's a tuning issue. That's not, hey, my class is garbage. It's been designed poorly and it's garbage. The class, I think, spec-wise, for the most part, is designed pretty well. Yes, some abilities can be tuned, changed, buff, nerf, but that's whatever. The best case scenario for Warlock is that we get an aura buff, which I think we probably will end up getting an aura buff probably for every spec. Heading into after heroic testing or heroic, Nathria into Mythic, there'll always be tuning. And once again, that is the reason why I'm waiting on Legendary crafting as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video gave you all a better grasp, just understanding about, well, a lot of things that are Warlock over the past few days. I've gotten these questions a lot on stream, and I'm happy to answer them every single time because, the person who's asking it wasn't necessarily there when it was asked last time, but I figured that having like one video just summarizing all the changes is probably the best way to go and a good reference point for people who are maybe coming in a bit late. I am still Night Fae. Warlock is still, well, we can use a damage buff, but, our toolkit's good. I don't love the Darkmoon Trinket. I'm playing Destro because it's just more front-loaded damage. Conduits, you should save. Basically, all of that. So I appreciate you guys watching, and hopefully it helped you out. Let me know what you guys think of just everything in this video in the comment section below. And if I missed anything, also, feel free to leave it down there. Any questions, leave them, drop there as well. And I will be sure to get back to you. Once again, any weak ORS profiles or add-ons you see here, you can get off my Twitch for free. If you want to swing by, hang out, ask any questions, feel free to do so at any time. If you guys want to see more WoW content, be sure to smash the subscribe button below. Hit the like button while you're down there. Helps out a lot. Thanks again, dudes, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.